Let me invite Ms. Sowjanya, Secretary ID, Government of Uttarakhand, on the stage.
Good morning to everybody. I would like to thank the organizers of this event, especially Ravi Gupta ji from Elets and the knowledge partners, the host partners, that is Government of Uttarakhand, one of our most efficient additional secretaries, Ashish Srivatsav, for the kind of enthusiasm he's shown in conducting, organizing, and connecting with everybody, and the supporting partners. And I guess you have the analytics partner, SAS, and all the eminent industrialists who are here, and all the dignitaries. I really thank you for organizing this particular event in the beautiful green city of Dehradun, especially given the weather elsewhere, and also for inviting me to have an exchange of ideas with you people today. So I've worked for around like 15 to 16 years in Uttarakhand. I basically hail from Karnataka, Bangalore. I was born and brought up in Bangalore. So I can see the main challenge that you can obviously see in Uttarakhand is the mountainous terrain. Whenever we worked in the districts also, the main thing is all the time landslides and the kind of things, issues that we have with normal connectivity. Now you can think about the net connectivity, OFC cables running through all these places. The thing is, all the time, something or the other keeps happening in the hills. The very challenge of a very tenuous road and the kind of amount of effort that goes in to put these cables there itself is a big challenge. I guess the Indus partners here with us would endorse what I'm trying to say, and especially given the technicalities like, you know, the splicing and then the bends and the curvature. You don't get the kind of curvature that you get in plains, and the deep curve bends everywhere you have, irrespective of the road. In the hills, this is a big challenge here. To give you a context, actually, I just conducted, I'm also incidentally the Chief Election Officer of Uttarakhand. So whenever there is a connectivity cut in other department, at least you have the advantage of a lead time. Could be, even if you update it after 6-7 months, nothing drastic is going to happen. But when we are conducting the elections on the day of counting, there is something called ETPBS, electronically transferred postal ballot. That basically means when you are counting the normal EVMs for the normal votes, and for the service voters' votes, you need to count it by scanning. You're scanning for the veracity, to check the veracity of every ballot, you're scanning. And if the code that is written on the postal ballot matches with that of the server that is kept in Pune, then you're okay with, if it says yes, then that particular vote can be counted. And unless you finish your postal ballots or start with the postal ballots, unless you finish with the postal ballots, you cannot declare the results. So one of the most crucial thing for a CEO on the day of counting is just ensuring that the connectivity in all the counting centers is intact. Otherwise, you cannot come up with the results of the election. This is the level at which we are worried about connectivity when it comes to real-time connections. And one of the major challenges, as I told you, is the terrain. We are trying to work on it, of course, but the scale of economies also, I would want to impress upon that, that the scale of economies doesn't work out the way it would work out in an urban conglomeration. It doesn't work out in the hills. You don't have that kind of a volume of transactions that people would be interested to invest. Even towers, even now on these days, I have 410 shadow areas. Shadow areas basically means places which are just not catered for. In these places, during election, I need to take, on the poll day, I need to take daily feedbacks, hourly feedbacks, every 2 hours, what is the poll percentage. So even in those places, I don't even have connectivity of the very basic 2G connectivity is also something that is lacking in our 410 shadow villages. So this is the level at which we are operating from. So this is just to set a context as to when compared to the developed states and states which have a better connectivity, we do lag in this perspective. And also I am holding the charge of finance secretary currently. So in finance, our major challenge, one is the treasury. All our treasury is actually connected. POP, that is points of presence, is there of SWAN. But even then, the connectivity issues are the same again when we are actually reconciling our documents. Yesterday, I incidentally did have one AG para which we were referring to. But the problem is the reconciling of the accounts doesn't happen because the treasury data, though it is connected, it doesn't upload. So by the 5th of a particular month, you're supposed to reconcile. But that timelines that we generally keep, GST returns, most of you are from the industry, so GST returns has a particular date by which you have to give the 3B and the 1, etc. So in the hills, this is still a problem because of the connectivity. So even when it comes to financial transaction, banking sector, connectivity is a very crucial issue. I'll give you another example. Many of our villages are quite cut off, 18 kilometers by foot after the road ends, by 18 kilometers by foot. 2 of the villages I had myself visited. One is Osla. Osla in Harkidun, if anybody has done the trek of Harkidun, but there is one, yes, please? Okay. You have been to Osla, yeah. So you might vouch for it. Actually, it is not connected, and the concept that we have of business correspondence. Even business correspondence would not get the connectivity there. Generally, we think if you do not have a ATM, you do not have a banking service, then we will saturate the entire area by business correspondence. But we don't even have the connectivity. But as a system, we shifted. Well, earlier, people had pension accounts, etc., pension given through postal system. But postman was a human interface. So we thought human interface should be reduced, and we should do a non-human interface transaction. So we shifted everything. The entire system onto the banking. But when it comes to banking, you actually feel, when I interacted with the women, 60 plus, 70, 75, 80-year-old women and men in Osla, they could not even get their pensions every month because they don't know. They don't know if it has arrived because they don't have the mobile connectivity, and they have to trek for 18 kilometers to reach a place which has the nearest bank. Even connectivity, ATM, whatever. So 18 kilometers, which is humanly impossible for a very senior person. So there were instances where in 6 to 7 months, people have not received their pension, which was earlier there, but human interface was there for sure. But earlier there only because we had taken a system which is not, which couldn't comply, which wouldn't comply today the guidelines of DBT, etc. So these are the challenges that we day-to-day face when it comes to financial inclusion, when it comes to banking, and when it comes to connectivity also. Whenever we try and interact with the private partners who invest in it, the thing is the scale of economies, the amount of transactions does not really amount to the amount so that they'll break even earlier. So we also had a scheme, but it wasn't taken up. If somebody wanted to put a tower, so 30 or 40% of VGF could be given. We have budget for it also. So could be we can interact if places where the shadow areas are there, if any of the business partners working in the connectivity sector are interested in it. Another thing that I would want to, because the topic that was given to me was enabling digital network. I think from my experience, I also worked in 2-3 social sectors. One is the Anganwadis. You must be knowing it as a WCD, Women and Child Department, and then the Health Department. So most of our workers, that is the frontline workers we call them, that's Anganwadi worker for every 600 population, and one ASHA in the health sector for every 1,000 population. So these are the people who will cater for the entire delivery of public services in the health and WCD department in the last leg. So when I was in WCD department for Anganwadis, just to ensure the presence, the major challenge that we have in the government in these 3 sectors of education, WCD and health is accountability. Once you are in the hills, one wouldn't know if the teacher has really attended the particular class, if the Anganwadi is really cooking the meals or giving. So through the Government of India initiative, tablets were given to each of these Anganwadis, and we tried to make it compulsory for them to take pictures of themselves feeding the child every day. It might not be uploaded because of lack of connectivity. Whenever they come to the stations where connectivity exists, they could upload. So this system could be put in place in Uttarakhand for all Anganwadi workers. Of course, it can be upscaled because when it comes to the kind of things that these Anganwadi workers do, one is taking attendance of the children to see if all the benefits that were intended to be given to the children are given, and secondly, giving reading material. When it comes to, actually, we create a lot of material to be disseminated, but that it gets printed in the headquarters, and could be it goes to the district headquarters or the block, but then it doesn't seep into the villages and the habitations the way we intend it to be. So after this giving tablets to each of these Anganwadis, that really helped because we could put preloaded material into all these tablets. And thirdly, information dissemination took it was quite a prop to that information dissemination, especially given during the COVID time. During the COVID time, there was no interaction, face-to-face interaction, and these were the people who are actually checking the temperature, oxygen, etc. with oximeters and thermometers. So this was one of the digital, enabling them to use the digital network really helped in getting the services given in the last leg. The kind of, and also we could also, earlier one of the systemic deficiencies that I saw in these particular departments was, in certain departments like education, say suppose you have a task like printing a textbook, you know exactly how many children would be there in the 4th standard in a particular school on that particular year. So you just have to give an order and then it gets distributed. You know, you can freeze the numbers. But when you're working in departments like WCD, you have no idea how many children are going to be born in Mori in that particular month. That is a dynamic data. Say suppose you come up with a scheme like Sowjanya scheme. Sowjanya scheme is basically if a lady gives birth to a child, for the first child you give a kit. That kit encompasses the oil, massaging oil, and a lot of things that are required for a lady when she gives birth, clothing for them and warm clothes for them. So how to work out the logistics, because you have no clue the year before when you're actually doing the budget as to what is the total requirement of that particular block or district and where exactly and when exactly it has to be delivered, because you have a lot of components like badam and walnut which might be perishable also. So it's not that you can procure it en masse and store it. So for this we made a software wherein software in the sense an application wherein each of these Anganwadis were provided with the tablet already. So all that they need to do is at any given particular time, they know, of course they would know because of the ASHA workers, immunization, etc., the likely time of delivery of that particular person. So when they give that information to the system through an SMS, then exactly an amount of 3,500 could be passed on to that lady a month before so that she can buy the relevant things and keep it. And you also can balance the fund. Especially the problem with the finance department is, say suppose I give a particular budget of 50 crores for a particular scheme to a particular department. Further down, what used to happen is they used to divide it depending on the population, depending on the historical data. They'll just divide it and give it to the districts. The district further on to the blocks, and the blocks further on to the whatever units that they have in the health, CHC, PHC, in the whatever in the Anganwadi, could be it's an Anganwadi center. But the thing is, there is no requirement in a particular place. A lot of requirement in another place. I was CDO for NREGA, that's National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. So this is again a demand driven. Just because there are laborers doesn't mean that they have a demand for labor. But you are distributing the funds to every panchayat. This panchayat has 10 lakhs but no demand. This panchayat has 10 lakhs but has a demand of 1 crore. So once you give off, you are blocked. This particular guy might give 100% UC. You might have a entire 10 lakhs UC, but this person is not giving. So ultimately, you are unable to give the UC further on to the Department of Rural Development in the center, and you're stuck. Basically, there was no float of money and the liquidity was not available to each one of us before these systems were put in place. The moment you put these systems in place and adopted the, you must have heard of PFMS. These days, all of us are adopting in the central government also, the PFMS. It has not come to it's a work in progress. I guess it will take 1 or 2 years to stabilize. But once these systems are put in place, I'm saying this from the angle of a finance secretary, the pressure that we feel at the government to actually keep the liquidity wherever it is, where the money is required, at the point of time when the money is required, in the place where the money is required, to make it available, these systems, the digital network, getting people used to the digital network and putting systems in place to ensure that whoever requires wherever the money, that can be ensured. So now through the PFMS, you have a single nodal agency, and then he has a mother and child account, and down the line you have put limits in place. So earlier also the concept of mother and child account was there, but people were inordinately scared. I guess people are from the banking sector, if anybody is here. Yeah, they were very scared as to could be one particular panchayat may take off all the whatever, and you do not. Generally, you have the control by signature in a treasury. But in the banking, if you have these kind of systems and one person is taking and siphoning off the funds, and then everybody was scared. But now the capacity of the banking sector is also enhanced, and we do have systems in place. Of course, there would be challenges till it is, generally we get used to the system. That might take around 2 to 3 years, evolutionary progress, yes, of course. But I do see a very great change and a lot of float, and for the treasury and for the finance person who manages finances, a lot of ease in and exactly knowing. To give you an example, I was MD NHM, National Health Mission in Karnataka, on deputation. So it's around 2,500 crores budget for an annual year or so. So at the end of the year, you give I pass the money down and I give the UC. But then when you, after 2 months, when you start checking in the next financial year, you find money locked up everywhere. And it is not there in the system because they are kept in different bank branches and nobody knows where it is kept. So in Tamil Nadu and in Karnataka, we could find more than 1,800 crores locked up in various places. So these kind of incidences are going to happen less and less the more we get the digital network platform on. But the main challenge that I see, because we are in touch with the field also, is to get people used to it. There is a resistance. Whenever, even when we started with Anganwadis, first 2-3 months they went on a strike saying that हमारा connectivity नहीं है, 10वीं pass है, हम कैसे करेंगे, those kind of things. But we started convincing 10वीं pass है, but mobile तो use कर रहे हैं. When you can use the mobile, at mobile also we should include to be a part of the digital network. So when mobile can be used, when other things can be used, and we have to make it a little utilitarian. What happens is we ask everybody to use a system, but we have not stabilized the system ourselves. The speed at which we just want it tomorrow. Tomorrow it will be executed, no trial test, and third day we ask everybody to use, and everybody is saying there is some problem here or there. This we saw it in GST and also when GST was rolled out. So could be we should, on our part, we need to kind of go through the thing 10-15 times and do trial testing and only roll out to reduce the amount of public grievance. But anyway, taking these people on board, how much more time do I have? Yeah, okay. So taking some time and rolling out would be the lesson that we need to learn, but taking people on board and making it utilitarian. If the Anganwadi finds it convenient to use that particular software wherein she says, I have, Anganwadi gets money, one for her own salary, one for her own sadi, second that is her worker benefits. She gets benefits for that particular center, like she gets a rent for that center, she gets equipment, she gets playthings, and then she gets something for the beneficiary. So there are 3 people, stakeholders. So now I give money, but I do not know exactly where she needs something. So she is lacking money in as a head of sari, but I have given it in supplementary nutrition. She can't cross-utilize it. So these kind of the problems are what you can solve at that level. Why should she be bothered as to how many heads I have in my financial calculation and accounting process? She should be just bothered about having a liquidity and getting the schemes run. The back end process of accounting for money should be at our end. So if I put that in place, it eases a lot of grievance at the worker end, and they will adopt it far more in a forthcoming fashion than the kind of confusion that is there in the field today. Another example I would want to give, in the health you have Ashas, and the Ashas do not get a salary, fixed salary. That is something called performance-based incentives. That is, if she takes somebody for a institutional delivery, 400 rupees. She takes somebody for a sampling of immunization, some sputum of TB, 10 rupees, something else, 15 rupees. So everything gets added up and she gets. But the thing is, she applies physically. There are 19 programs. There are 19 officers who are looking into it. So at random times, they'll take decision. Yes, of course, she should be given 30 rupees. In her account, random amounts will come at random times. So just imagine, she doesn't even know if she has like taken 4 women, Gangamma, Shri Ramlamma, something. So 4 people she has taken to the hospital for institutional delivery. She gets for 3. She doesn't know who's the one who was left out, even if she wants to complaints. So these kind of things are there in the field. So if we come with a system which is, which actually gives her a feedback, she applies online, these are the 4 women who somebody says, no, you will not be given for this woman, then it comes as a letter also, she gets the total amount in her bank account. She exactly knows for whom she was not given the money. So if we make it that convenient, of course the Anganwadis, Ashas and the last frontline workers will adopt it far more enthusiastically because we are solving their problems. But when we start with the introducing the digital network and the digital things, we just say कि इसको सीख लेना, ये आपका एक additional काम है. So it becomes as an add-on thing without giving the services. So that is where I guess on the part of our government and administrative departments, we need to kind of gear ourselves. Of course, it does take time, but then that is something I learned that I thought I could share with you guys. And training is a very important part. The amount of time that we need to give for training, I guess we need to increase in the, to get the enable a very digitally, the workforce which is involved in digital framework. And one more thing, in Karnataka they had actually started with something called Jan Sevika in urban areas. So we have a lot of problems, like even for pensioners, you need a life certificate. So life certificate, you need to take the biometrics. So the biometrics might not be very clear, or could be the resolution that is required, you don't have the laptop at home, and could be you do not have youngsters in home who would help you out. So you have to go to the CSC. CSC, if you don't have one particular document, again and again you go to the CSC. So to cut down on all that, Karnataka had started something called Jan Sevika. So what they do is like one boy or girl in his own bike will take a laptop and a printer along with some connectivity device. It goes to the home after the call is given, goes to the home and gets all the details done. So it does really help people who are not very comfortable with dealing with websites and putting their own online application, and also have problems or depend on someone else to travel and go to the CSC. So these kind of initiatives will really give a lot of boost. So this is something for the CSCs, instead of like a mobile CSC, instead of a stationary CSC. So if you go to a particular village, the way business correspondents deal, do all the activities there and come back. On similar lines, if we could give, I'm sure it will take up. And Uttarakhand is a place where things are espoused in a very nice manner. This is around 10 years back. I was Commissioner VAT. That was called VAT during those times, sales tax. So we had a lot of checkposts, Asharodi checkposts and so many checkposts. And all these lorries would be stopped there, and at times 2 or 3 days it would be in the checkpost. So we had introduced something called trip sheet. Trip sheet basically is the e-bill that is there in the GST today. So trip sheet, in the trip sheet, they need not stop physically their vehicles. They just upload on our system as to what are the goods there, and seamlessly they can come in. But the penalty was increased. Our mobile systems were increased, and in case you are coming inside without a declared trip sheet, then the penalty was multiple fold. So after introducing it, within 15 days, I could see when I was traveling to Delhi through Meerut, in every dhaba you could see कि यहाँ पे e-bill trip sheet बनती है. मतलब it was dhabas, the rural areas of the UP abutting districts, everywhere I could see. So when it comes to, if you make the system easy for the person who's utilizing it, I'm very sure adopting it from the interest and the whatever to adopt the particular system, whether it is truck drivers or the villagers or the students, is very high. And I've particularly seen that in Uttarakhand. So I guess we have a very enabling environment, but the challenges are the efforts that we need to put in from the government vis-a-vis training and making the systems easier, and connectivity challenges and subsidizing the connectivity challenges, because we do not, the industry might not find it very remunerative if it is not subsidized. So these are the main things I thought I should share with you. If there is anything that you would like to ask, I'm available. Thank you.